Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I just want to talk to you heart to heart because I know so many of us are working so hard. We wake up early, we sleep late, we grind through traffic, deadlines, and responsibilities, all just to earn a living. We pray for opportunities, we hope for breakthroughs. And when a little money comes, we thank God because we know how hard it was to earn. But here's something I realized along the way. No matter how hard you work, no matter how many hours you put in, or how high your paycheck is, if you don't know how to manage it, it will never be enough. We live in a society that praises hustle culture. Keep working, they say. Work hard now, enjoy later. And yes, there's wisdom in that. But sometimes we get so caught up in the chase for more that we forget to take care of what we already have. You might be earning 5 times more than what you used to, but if your spending habits grew 5 times bigger too, then you're still at zero. Or worse, in the negative. That's the trap so many people fall into. They think the solution to financial struggle is more money. And yes, more income helps, but it's not the only answer. Because I've met people who earn a lot, but they're drowning in debt. I've seen celebrities, athletes, influencers, millions in their accounts, but one wrong decision, one bad investment, and it's gone. So it's not just about the amount. It's about the ability to control your choices when the money comes in. It's about understanding the difference between what you need and what you want. It's about having the courage to say no, even when you can technically afford to say yes. Let's be honest, there are times when we're not really buying something because we need it, but because we want to feel a little better about ourselves. We want to reward ourselves for working hard. And that's okay sometimes. But when that becomes a habit and you start spending emotionally instead of wisely, that's when the problem begins. That's why hard work alone isn't the solution. It's necessary, but it's not complete. Because even the most disciplined worker can be financially lost if they don't know how to handle their finances. Even the most ambitious dreamer can stay stuck if their spending keeps pulling them backward. So, yes, work hard, earn, build, hustle. But don't forget, the real challenge isn't just getting the money, it's knowing what to do when it comes. And when that money does come, when your prayers are answered and you finally start to see the fruit of your labor, that's when the real test begins. Because here's the truth. It's one thing to earn money. It's another thing to keep it. And it's even more difficult to grow it. Just because you're earning more doesn't mean you're automatically getting ahead. It doesn't mean you're becoming financially free. It doesn't even mean you're secure. That was a hard lesson I had to learn for myself. There was a season when I was earning more than I ever did before. Projects were coming in, endorsements, appearances, the blessings were overflowing. But at the end of every month, I found myself asking, where did it all go? I wasn't buying extravagant things or living a luxurious life, but I also wasn't keeping track of my spending. I wasn't budgeting. I wasn't setting aside anything for the future. I was just going with the flow, thinking that as long as the money kept coming, everything would be okay. But it's not okay. Because that mindset, that false sense of security is dangerous. When you think that your income is the answer to every problem, you become blind to your own habits. You start relying on how much is coming in instead of how well you're using it. And that's the beginning of financial instability, even if you're earning a lot. There are people earning 6, 7 figures, but they're still living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because their lifestyle grows with their income. The moment they get a raise, they buy a better phone, move to a bigger place, take out a new loan. It becomes a cycle, more income, more expenses, no peace. And we don't always notice it because in the eyes of the world, they look successful, they're wearing nice clothes, driving expensive cars, eating at fancy restaurants, but inside they're worried. They're stretched thin, they don't talk about it, but they feel it, the pressure to maintain the image, the fear of losing it all. That's the trap of mismanagement. It hides behind the illusion of success. It makes you feel like you're doing okay because the numbers are big, but the habits are broken. And that's why earning more isn't the goal. It's not the ultimate solution. Because if you lack wisdom in how you handle what you have, no amount will ever feel like enough. You'll keep chasing the next paycheck, the next deal, the next bonus, thinking that one day you'll finally feel secure. But security doesn't come from income. It comes from intention. It comes from awareness. It comes from knowing exactly where your money is going and why. That's what true financial freedom looks like, not just having money, but having control. And when you don't have that control, when you don't know where your money is going, it's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. No matter how much you pour, it will never stay full. You can work overtime, accept more projects, take every opportunity that comes your way. You can be the highest earner in your circle. But if your financial habits are leaking, if you're constantly spending without tracking, swiping without thinking, borrowing without planning, the results will always be the same, empty. That's what mismanagement does. It creates invisible leaks. Little by little, it drains what could have been a blessing. It turns abundance into anxiety. And the worst part, most of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. Because the leaks aren't always big purchases. Sometimes it's the small daily decisions, food deliveries you didn't plan for, subscriptions you forgot to cancel, impulsive shopping because you had a bad day. These small leaks, when added up over time, can quietly take away what you worked so hard to earn. I've seen people blame their income, thinking, if I only earn more, I wouldn't be struggling. But the problem isn't always the income. It's the container. It's the system. It's the mindset. You don't need to keep earning more just to survive. You need to start sealing the holes. And the truth is, sealing those holes isn't exciting. It's not glamorous. It's not something people post on social media. No one's gonna clap for you because you stayed home instead of eating out. No one's going to notice that you skipped the latest gadget because you wanted to save. But those quiet decisions, that silent discipline, that's where the breakthrough begins. When you start tracking your spending, when you start telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went, that's when your bucket starts to hold. That's when progress becomes possible. And I know it's hard at first. When you've been used to living a certain way, it's uncomfortable to change. But small adjustments made consistently can turn a leaking bucket into a solid foundation. You'll begin to realize that peace doesn't come from having more, it comes from having control. From knowing that whatever you earn, no matter how big or small, is being used wisely, purposefully, and in line with your goals. So before you pray for more, before you chase the next level of income, ask yourself, have I taken care of what I already have? Am I stewarding it well? Or am I letting it slip through cracks I've been ignoring? Because the answer to our financial frustration isn't always outside of us. Sometimes it's in the very choices we make every day, the ones that either seal the bucket or keep it leaking. Once you start to seal the leaks in your financial life, that's when another truth becomes clear, that real wealth isn't built by how much you make, but by how disciplined you are with what you have. Discipline, not talent, not luck, not even high income, is the foundation of lasting financial stability. Because no matter how big the amount is, if you don't have the discipline to say no when you need to delay gratification, and to think long term, it won't last. There's a quiet strength in being disciplined. It doesn't look exciting. In fact, most of the time, it feels inconvenient. It's choosing to cook at home even if you can afford takeout. It's choosing to put money into your savings instead of joining every sale online. It's choosing to walk away from a purchase, not because you can't afford it, but because you've decided your future matters more than the moment. That's hard, especially in a world that teaches us to chase happiness in the form of things, new clothes, fancy coffee, the latest gadgets. But what the world celebrates in the moment, discipline protects for the long haul. Discipline is waking up and choosing consistency over comfort. It's creating a budget and actually sticking to it. It's tracking your expenses even when it feels repetitive. And it's reminding yourself over and over again that the goal isn't to impress people, it's to take care of your future. Some of the wealthiest people I know aren't flashy. They don't post their bank accounts or brag about what they buy. But they have peace. They have options. They're free because they've built their lives around discipline. They've made intentional decisions that allowed their money to grow, not just come and go. It's also important to remember, discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. You're not restricting yourself, you're preparing yourself. You're creating a life where you don't have to panic over every emergency, where you're not chained to your next paycheck, where you can give freely because you've saved wisely. That kind of life doesn't happen by accident. It's built one decision at a time. And sometimes people won't understand it. They might question your choices, your simplicity, your sacrifices. But that's okay. Because at the end of the day, you know what you're building. You're not just spending for today, you're planting seeds for tomorrow. So if you're in a season where you're choosing discipline, keep going. Even if no one sees it, even if it's not easy. Because the reward of discipline is always greater than the thrill of impulse. And when the results start showing in your savings, your peace, your freedom, you'll realize that discipline wasn't just a choice, it was your biggest investment. Discipline will get you started, but it's wisdom that keeps you steady. Because effort alone, no matter how strong or sincere, can only take you so far without direction. You can be working day and night, giving your all, pouring your energy into every opportunity. But if there's no wisdom guiding your decisions, it's easy to get stuck in a cycle of exhaustion without real progress. Wisdom is what helps you pause before you act. It teaches you to step back, assess, and make choices that lead to long-term stability, not just short-term success. And that kind of stability, it doesn't come from hustle alone. It comes from insight, from discernment, from asking the deeper questions like, is this the best use of my money? Or is this helping me move forward or just keeping me busy? I know people who work so hard, they give everything to their jobs, their businesses, their careers, but they never take the time to reflect on how they're using what they earn. They think that if they just keep pushing, something will eventually click. But effort without wisdom can become wasted energy. It can look like movement, but still be going in circles. Wisdom teaches us to work smarter, not just harder, to plan ahead, to anticipate, to prepare. It helps us understand that not every opportunity is worth saying yes to. That sometimes slowing down to think is more powerful than rushing to act. Financially, wisdom shows up in the quiet moments when you choose to invest instead of impulsively spend. When you decide to learn about how money works instead of avoiding it out of fear. When you ask for advice, when you read, when you study, when you surround yourself with people who've been where you want to go. And most importantly, Wisdom reminds us that money isn't just about math, it's about mindset. You can have the right numbers and still make poor choices if your thinking hasn't changed. But when you lead with wisdom, your decisions begin to align with your goals, and your financial habits start to reflect the kind of life you want to build. That's where stability is born, not from how fast you move, but from how well you understand your direction, from how deeply you value the lessons behind every peso or dollar you spend, from how intentionally you live, even in the small areas of your finances. So yes, work hard, keep showing up, keep giving your best, but pair your effort with wisdom. Let your hustle be guided by insight. Because when wisdom walks with your work, you're not just chasing success, you're building a foundation that lasts, a life that's stable, steady, and deeply rooted in purpose. You can have momentum, you can be in a season where everything seems to be moving forward, where doors are opening, where the blessings are pouring in. But if you don't know how to manage what's coming, that momentum won't last. Momentum is a gift. It's that energy you feel when things are flowing, when your efforts are paying off, when you're in demand, when you're finally seeing results. But here's what I've learned. Momentum may start success, but it's management that sustains it. Because momentum fades, seasons change, circumstances shift. The opportunities you have today may not be the same ones available tomorrow. And if you don't have a system, a way of managing what you've been given, you might find yourself losing the very thing you worked so hard to build. It's not enough to just keep moving. You have to know where you're going and how to handle what you've received along the way. I've seen people reach success quickly. They blew up on social media. They hit big sales. They landed huge contracts. But because they didn't manage their success well financially, mentally, emotionally, it crumbled just as fast. They were carried by the wave of momentum, but they weren't ready to sustain the weight of what came with it. That's the danger of relying on momentum alone. It makes us feel like we're invincible, like we can keep going at full speed forever. But without structure, without planning, without a clear sense of how to manage what's growing success, can actually become overwhelming. And unmanaged success can be just as dangerous as failure. Management is what brings order to the chaos. It's what helps you stay grounded when everything is moving quickly. It's what ensures that your income isn't just increasing, but your habits are maturing with it. It's what gives you the ability to scale your life with wisdom, not just excitement. And the truth is, good management often happens behind the scenes. It's the stuff people don't see. The quiet budgeting, the tracking, the setting aside, the choosing to say no when everything around you is saying yes. It's the discipline of continuing to think long-term even when short-term success is tempting you to relax. This is why management is a form of self-leadership. You're not just reacting to life, you're leading it. You're taking responsibility not only for what you earn, but for how you handle it. And in that responsibility, you gain power, you gain peace, you gain the ability to keep going, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. So when momentum comes, be grateful, ride the wave, celebrate the wins, but don't forget to manage it well, because what you manage well, you multiply. And what you neglect, you eventually lose. Sometimes, we think the only reason someone is struggling financially is because they don't have enough money. But the truth is, many people are broke not because they lack money, but because they lack management. It's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. Because if we don't confront it, we'll keep blaming our income, our job, the economy, everything outside of us, without ever looking at what's happening inside our own habits and decisions. The problem is not always the paycheck. Sometimes it's what happens the moment that paycheck arrives. Money can't fix poor habits. In fact, money often magnifies them. If someone is careless with a small amount, they'll likely be careless with a large one. If someone spends impulsively with a little, they'll spend impulsively with a lot. More money doesn't always mean more peace. Sometimes it just means more pressure, more expenses, and more opportunities to make the same mistakes on a larger scale. That's why it's so important to shift our mindset. Instead of constantly chasing more, we need to start mastering what's already in our hands. Because you can increase your income 10 times over, but if you don't change the way you manage it, you'll still end up in the same place, stressed, stretched, and stuck. I've heard stories, maybe you have too, of people winning the lottery, inheriting wealth, or earning big overnight. And within a few years, everything's gone. Not because they were unlucky, but because they were unprepared. Because without the skill of management, even the biggest blessing can turn into a burden. It's not just about how much comes in, it's about how much stays and how it's used. Are you budgeting? Are you saving? Are you investing wisely? Are you giving intentionally? Are you tracking your spending? These are the habits that separate those who grow wealth from those who lose it. And this isn't about living in fear or being stingy. It's about being faithful. It's about honoring what you've been given. It's about understanding that even if your income isn't where you want it to be yet, you can still build a strong foundation through wise management. Some of the most financially secure people I know didn't start with a lot, but they had clarity. They had order. They knew where every peso, every dollar, every cent was going. And because they managed what little they had with care, it eventually grew. So if you're feeling stuck or broke or behind, don't just ask, how can I make more? Start asking, am I managing well what I already have? Because it's not always about lack. Sometimes it's about leakage. And the moment you start managing wisely is the moment you stop living in survival and start moving toward freedom. When we think of wealth, we often picture what we see, the cars, the homes, the luxury brands, the vacations. But what we don't see, what often goes unnoticed, is where real wealth is built. Because wealth is not built in the spending, it's built quietly in the saving, the planning, and the consistency. Wealth doesn't shout. It doesn't always wear designer clothes or sit in the spotlight. In fact, real wealth is often invisible to the eye. It's sitting in a savings account that no one sees. It's growing in investments that aren't posted online. It's built in the quiet sacrifices. No one applauds saying no to unnecessary spending, skipping the newest trend, staying home instead of joining every night out. That's the unglamorous part of building wealth. And yet, it's the most powerful. Because the people who truly build financial freedom aren't focused on looking rich. They're focused on becoming stable. They're thinking 5, 10, 20 years ahead. While others are chasing appearances, they're chasing purpose. While others are spending to impress, they're saving to invest. And here's what's beautiful about it. You don't need a huge income to start building wealth this way. You just need intention. You need a plan. You need the willingness to be consistent, even when no one else sees it. Saving isn't always exciting. It can feel slow, even boring. But that's where the foundation is laid. That's where peace begins to grow. Because every amount you save, no matter how small, is a seed. And when you save consistently over time, those seeds multiply. Planning adds direction to your finances. It tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It's the monthly budget, the emergency fund, the goals written down not just in your mind but in action. Planning helps you move with purpose, not pressure. It allows you to say no to things now so you can say yes to better things later. And consistency. That's where the real breakthrough happens. Not in one-time efforts, but in daily choices. It's choosing again and again to stick to your values, to keep saving, to keep planning, to keep growing, even when the results aren't instant. Because wealth isn't built by chance, it's built by character. It's built by quiet commitment. And while the world might not notice your savings account, your emergency fund, or your long-term investments, you will. Your future self will thank you. Your family will feel the difference. Your life will reflect the strength of those silent decisions. So don't let the noise of the world distract you from the value of the quiet path. You don't need to prove your success through spending. True wealth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be steady, intentional, and deeply rooted in wisdom. Some people stumble into wealth. They get a lucky break, inherit money, go viral overnight, or land a huge deal. And suddenly they're rich, at least on the surface. It looks like success. It feels like a dream. But here's the truth that time always reveals. Getting rich can happen by accident, but staying rich is never accidental. It is intentional. Because money that comes quickly can leave just as quickly if it's not handled with purpose. Sudden success can feel powerful, even invincible. But if you don't have a mindset rooted in responsibility, that blessing can become a burden. And history shows this. How many celebrities, athletes, or business people have we seen rise fast and fall even faster? Not because they lacked opportunity, but because they lacked intention. Staying rich, whether in finances, peace, or purpose, takes a different kind of strength. It's not built on hype. It's not built on trends. It's built on steady, smart decisions made when no one is watching. It's built through humility, the willingness to keep learning, keep adjusting, and keep managing no matter how much you've gained. Because staying rich is not about keeping up an image, it's about preserving impact. It's making sure that what you have doesn't just look good, it lasts. It serves your goals. It supports your family. It brings peace instead of pressure. That kind of wealth isn't flashy. It's not loud. And it's never accidental. It's built through the budgeting you continue to do, even after you've made it. It's built through the choices you make to live below your means, to invest in things that grow, to say no to the unnecessary, even when you can afford it. It's built when you stop asking, what can I buy? And start asking, what will this mean 10 years from now? Staying rich takes foresight. It takes boundaries. It takes an honest evaluation of not just what you want, but what you're called to build. And that's where the journey of money management becomes more than financial. It becomes spiritual. It becomes a reflection of your values, your maturity, your legacy. Because at the end of the day, it's not about just having money. It's about what that money allows you to do, who it helps you become, what kind of life it empowers you to lead. So yes, getting rich might happen in a moment, but staying rich, that's daily. That's intentional. That's you showing up again and again, not driven by pressure or image, but by purpose. And when you live with that kind of clarity, when you manage well, stay grounded, and keep growing with wisdom, you realize wealth isn't just about money, it's about mindset. And when your mind is strong, your future will be too. We often think that freedom comes from earning more, that if we could just get a raise, start that business, land that opportunity, then finally we'd be free. But here's the truth that many people learn the hard way. True freedom doesn't come from making more. It comes from managing well what you already have. Because if you can't control your spending at Tawan 10,000, you won't magically know how to manage Ta 100,000. If you feel financially anxious, earning minimum wage, that anxiety might still follow you with a six-figure income if your habits stay the same. Money, by itself, doesn't give peace. What gives peace is control. And control doesn't mean being tight-fisted or scared to spend. It means being intentional. It means knowing where your money goes and why. It means setting boundaries, having a plan, and following through. When you begin to take control, when you track your expenses, when you save on purpose, when you set goals and stick to them, that's when you begin to experience a different kind of freedom. A quiet confidence, a calm in your spirit that says, I may not have everything I want, but I know how to take care of what I have. That's powerful. Because freedom is not about how big your paycheck is. It's about the space between what you earn and how you live. It's about living beneath your means, not because you're deprived, but because you're wise. Because you're building a future, not just feeding the moment. I know people who earn modest incomes but live free. They don't owe anyone. They sleep peacefully. They give generously. Why? Because they've learned to control what they have. On the other hand, there are people with high-paying jobs who are drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, constantly stressed, not because they don't earn enough, but because they don't manage it well. Freedom isn't found in the next big thing. It's built in the decisions you make today. When you begin to take ownership of your finances, something shifts. You stop blaming your circumstances and start changing them. You stop waiting for more and start maximizing the now. And you realize you're not powerless, you're not stuck, you're not waiting on luck. You have everything you need to start building the life you want right here, right now, by simply deciding to take control. Because the moment you begin to manage your money with wisdom, with purpose, with clarity, that's the moment you begin to walk in freedom. Not someday, not when you're rich, but today. With what you already have, once you start managing your money well, once you begin to feel a sense of control, peace, and direction, it's easy to think, if I had more, I'd be even better. But there's something important you have to understand. Money doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been. Money is a magnifier. It shines a spotlight on your values, your habits, your priorities. It doesn't make you generous or selfish, wise or reckless. It simply gives you the power to express what was already inside you. That's why some people, when they come into more money, suddenly become unrecognizable. Not because they've changed, but because the money has removed the limits. It gave them the ability to act on things they might have hidden when they had less. If you're disciplined now, you'll likely be disciplined when you earn more. If you're careless now, more money won't fix that. It might only make the consequences bigger. If you give when you have little, you'll likely give even more when you have plenty. But if you hoard everything now, don't expect generosity to magically appear with a higher paycheck. The issue was never really the amount. It's the mindset, the character, the heart. That's why it's so important to build the right foundation now. While things are still simple, still small, still quiet. Because who you are in private, in the hidden places of your finances, that's who you truly are. And that's what money will one day reveal. If you're using money to impress others, it might be revealing a deep need for validation. If you're constantly spending beyond your means, it could be revealing an insecurity or a desire to escape. If you're investing wisely, saving diligently, giving faithfully, then it's showing a spirit of maturity, responsibility, and vision. So the question is not, what will I do when I have more? The question is, What am I doing with what I have now? Because that's your training ground. That's your testing place. That's where your real financial identity is being shaped. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to wait for more money to start becoming a better version of yourself. You can start right now with every decision. With every peso, every dollar, every small moment where you choose wisdom over impulse, purpose over pride. Because eventually money will come, maybe slowly, maybe suddenly. But when it does, may it only reveal what's already strong in you, not expose what was broken all along. Build the character first, the money will follow. And when it does, it won't change you. It will simply reflect the wise, steady, grounded person you've already become. So often we tell ourselves, when I have more, I'll do better. More income, more opportunities, more freedom, then I'll start budgeting. Then I'll start saving. Then I'll start giving, planning, and managing. But the truth is deeply simple and sometimes uncomfortable. If you can't manage the little you have now, you won't magically know how to manage more later. Because money doesn't teach you discipline. Discipline teaches you how to handle money. What you do with the small things is what you'll do with the big ones. It's a principle that applies to every part of life, relationships, time, responsibility, and yes, finances. If you waste what's little, you'll waste what's big. If you're careless with little, you'll be careless with much. Growth only magnifies what already exists. That's why managing the small amounts matters so much. Because every small decision is a training ground. Every budget you stick to, every impulse you resist, every peso you set aside, that's a step. A muscle being strengthened, a mindset being formed. You're not just managing money, you're managing you. And that's the heart of this principle. It's not about the size of your salary, it's about the strength of your stewardship. It's about your ability to honor what's in your hand now, even if it's not what you want it to be yet. Sometimes we think being faithful with little is insignificant, but in reality, that's where greatness begins. The future you want starts with the choices you make today. Not dramatic ones, not flashy ones. Just consistent, quiet, intentional steps. Track your spending even if it's small. Save a portion even if it's not a lot. Stick to a plan even if it's tight. Those aren't limitations. They're preparation. You're proving to yourself and to the future that you're capable of more because you're faithful with less. And the truth is, if you wait to manage money until you have enough, you'll never start. Because enough keeps moving. It shifts with every promotion, every lifestyle upgrade, every new responsibility. If you don't draw the line now, you'll always be chasing control instead of cultivating it. So flip the mindset. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't ignore small decisions. What seems little now is the soil where much is grown. Be excellent with what you have, even if no one sees it yet. Because when you manage the little with care, with wisdom, with purpose, you're building a life that's ready for increase. You're laying a foundation that can handle more. You're not just hoping for growth, you're preparing for it. And when more does come, it won't overwhelm you, it won't own you. It will simply fit into the system, the structure, and the strength you've already built. You don't wait for more to be faithful. You start now. Because the way you manage the little reveals everything about how you'll handle the much. After everything we've talked about saving, planning, discipline, and faithfulness, it all leads to one deeper truth we must hold close. Money is a tool, not a trophy. It was never meant to define your worth. It was never meant to be the measure of your identity. But the world often tries to convince us otherwise. Society tells us that the more money you have, the more valuable you are. That your car, your house, your clothes, your vacations, they somehow prove something about who you are. But that's not true, because the purpose of money is not to show off. The purpose of money is to serve, to build, to support what matters. Think about a hammer, a simple tool. You don't display it on a pedestal or take selfies with it. You use it to build, to repair, to create. It's not about the tool itself. It's about what it allows you to do. And money is the same. It's not the end. It's a means, a resource. Something that, when managed with wisdom and clarity, can help you bless your family, build your dreams, support your values, and create freedom not just for you, but for the people around you. But when we turn money into a trophy, we fall into a dangerous trap. We start comparing, we start performing, we start spending money, not because we need something, but because we want to prove something. And slowly, we lose control, we lose peace. We lose the very purpose money was meant to serve. Because when money becomes a trophy, you'll never feel like you have enough. There's always someone with more, always a new trend to keep up with, always a new standard to chase. And in that race, you'll wear yourself out trying to win a game that never ends. But when money is a tool, everything changes. You stop buying to impress. You start building with intention. You stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, what will this do for my future? And that shift, that quiet, powerful mindset change gives you your power back. You're no longer controlled by appearances. You're driven by purpose. Because true success isn't about how loud your lifestyle is. It's about how secure your foundation is. It's about whether your finances are aligned with your values. Whether your money serves your mission, not your ego. So don't let money become your identity. Let it be your instrument. Use it to bring peace to your home. Use it to bless others when they least expect it. Use it to build a life that's full of meaning, not just full of stuff. Because in the end, money won't remember how shiny your trophy looked, but it will reflect how wisely and how purposefully you used it. After all these truths about money, that it's a tool, a reflection, a responsibility, there's one idea that rises above them all. Financial wisdom isn't determined by how much you earn, but by how well you think. Because your income is only part of the story. What shapes your future isn't just what comes in, it's how you process, decide, and act with what comes in. It's your mindset, not your payslip, that defines your financial life. You can earn 6 figures and still be broke, anxious, and unprepared. You can earn minimum wage and still have peace, progress, and purpose. The difference is not the number, it's the thinking behind the number. And that's what wisdom is. It's not just about knowing facts or repeating advice. Wisdom is the ability to see the bigger picture, to think long term, to say, this decision may feel good now, but will it still be right 5 years from today? It's choosing clarity over confusion, patience over pressure, and intention over impulse. You see, most financial struggles don't come from a lack of money, they come from a lack of clarity, a lack of thought. We follow habits we've seen growing up, we spend based on emotions, or we avoid dealing with our finances out of fear or shame. But the moment we decide to think better, to pause, to learn, to reflect, everything begins to shift. Wisdom asks different questions. Not what can I afford right now, but what do I value most? Not what will this make me look like, but what will this help me become? That's why growing in financial wisdom means growing in self-awareness. It means asking yourself, why do I spend the way I spend? Why do I feel the need to upgrade, impress, or indulge? What am I really chasing, peace or applause? Comfort